Hello and welcome to A Picture in a Thousand Words. I'm Michael Fadler. For this episode, I'm revisiting a previous episode on balance. And I'm doing that because I had a conversation with a friend of mine about this particular piece, and some things were revealed to me that I thought were really interesting that I wanted to include into the conversation because this medium is pretty limited. It's not that expansive, and there were elements that I thought were important that I had left out that I thought I could add on to that. Um, and I should say that if anything sort of resonates with you on any of these episodes, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I really enjoy, that's kind of the intent of these exercises, and I like the idea of revisiting topics and evolving them. I have aspirations to do it more into the future. So just to recap the previous episode, if you imagine that it's the same picture, so before it was black and white, now you have this sort of color overlay. So it has sort of like a more flirtatious vibe, a little more catching, and sort of pings at sort of gender balance a little more overtly. But the main thrust of my previous episode was that if you imagine that pink, larger swoosh is the yin of the yin and yang symbol, sort of the maternal, emotive half. And there's the blue, which is the yang, more dominant male, driving complement. Within each, though, is that dot, that one small percentage of your complement. And the idea, and I'm just going to call it a button. So for women, that autonomous blue button in your sphere, don't forget about it. Don't forget about your autonomy and sort of being an independent entity and not worrying about what the rest of the world wants or thinks or believes that you should be. Just do your own thing and forget everybody else. And men, the inverse, you do a great job of thinking about yourself and sort of what you do for the good of yourself and your ego. And that's a blanket statement, but it's not false. And don't forget about your harmony button. You're sort of more maternalistic, doing good for the sake of doing good. And that's sort of the thrust of the previous episode. And what I think I left out is the bridge between the two. And what I mean by that is how does, let's say, men acting more harmoniously, how do you action that? Well, one way to action it is to recognize and acknowledge and respect the autonomy of women, which is a big one. It's a huge thing. It shows up all sorts of places, but it's a good place to start. And treating women as independent entities that deserve opportunity and faith and trust and patience and space and freedom. I know that might sound pretty simplistic, but I think it's true. And if you want to be, a way to be harmonious is to celebrate and champion and encourage that autonomy of women, whether it be with your coworkers or your family members or your friends or your kids or whichever. Just sort of see women as beautiful, independent entities and encourage that growth in the autonomous space and give them opportunities to shine. Even if that means you may lose some of the spotlight on you, that's really not the point. The point is to sort of do what is better for the greater good. And I think that's an easy action item. And then for women, I suggest retaining an autonomous opinion of men and having an opinion that is sort of free from bias, or at least being hijacked by sort of a separate entity. Sort of know what the men and women are doing in your circles and have an appreciation for what those people are actually doing or trying to do, because this growth that I hope occurs in humanity is not going to happen overnight, and it's probably not going to happen in a way that we can predict. And men are going to try, myself included, to do things that are for a greater good, but it's probably going to come off alien or weird, or it will draw skepticism, and try to diffuse it and sort of keep an open mind in the ways that men are operating, just because you don't know. And so that's essentially the thrust of it. Men support the freedom of women. Women retain your autonomous opinion of men. And so Thanks for sitting through another episode. I like doing these. I think that they're fun. I think that I learn a lot about myself. I learn a lot about other people as I explore these issues. And don't hesitate to reach out. That's sort of the point. When a truth is revealed, sometimes people can really open up about their perspective, and I want to hear it. I think it's really interesting, and I look forward to baking it into my own view of the world, much like is this case here. I like as many perspectives as I can get because it challenges me to have an open mind myself. So thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed it.